Michelangelo. Even those who aren't aware of his famous paintings, sculptures in Italy, or his contributions to Renaissance, they've at least heard his name. So what kind of man was Michelangelo? Today I'm going to describe to you his character and how he is portrayed in his famous artworks. If you look at his portrait of him, if you look at his nose, you'll notice it's rather flat. When he was an apprentice to a painter named Michelangelo, he criticized another apprentice, pretty much said his artwork sucked, and he punched him in the nose, broke the bone and cartilage, and he forever had a flat nose. Michelangelo was moody. He tended to be violent, especially with people he worked with, so he was basically a loner. When he was an infant, his nurse, and later on foster mother, was a stonecutter's wife, and he later claimed that his love for sculpting came from her milk. He was apprenticed to a painter at a young age of 13, and he was later recommended and accepted to the Medici, who ruled all of Florence, to study sculpting. He considered himself a sculptor first and foremost. With permission from the government, he was allowed to study corpses in the Santo Spirito Hospital, and he studied all the bones, muscles, tendons, veins in the corpses. And in 1499, he was able to show off his skill with La Pieta. In Italian, it means the pity, and it refers to the Virgin Mary with the dead Christ. This became famous very fast. People from all over Europe came to look at it. And he was actually criticized because Mary's face looks a lot younger than dead Christ's face. And he said that he believed that a true virgin retained her beauty forever. And while he was walking in the crowd listening to people looking at it, there were rumors that it was made by different artists from Milan. And Michelangelo never signed his works, but that night he snuck into the cathedral and he chiseled right on her chest, on the sash across her chest, he wrote, "Michelangelo Buonarroti from Florence made this." So he did have a little bit of a hoover side. This is his David, made in 1501-1504, aka Il Davide. It was made out of high-quality marble that was thought to have been ruined 30 years earlier by a different artist that was trying to make a David, and he managed to fix it by changing the position. David was a huge symbol for Florence, especially over their defeat from Milan. But he made it different from past traditional Davids. David was usually very boyish, almost feminine, very young-looking, but Michelangelo didn't do things that way. He made him muscular, older, athletic, and he actually made him, before the battle, looking at Goliath. He had no problem sculpting figures in the nude because his belief was that man was made in the image of God. And this was so famous it established him as the greatest sculptor in Italy. This is the Sistine Chapel ceiling, made in 1508 to 1512. In Rome, he was asked to paint this by Pope Julius II in the Sistine Chapel where cardinals would meet to elect new popes. And he was not happy about painting this. He didn't have much experience with painting. He felt he was a sculptor. The only experience he had with painting was a few years as a teenager as an apprentice. In fact, his rival was Leonardo da Vinci, who felt that painting was supreme to sculpture and that sculpting was just dirty labor. When they walked across the street, they would actually spit at each other. And when Leonardo saw this, he said they looked like ball sacks. He painted 9 biblical scenes, and as they get larger at the bottom, they become larger because he gained more confidence. This is actually a self-portrait of his severed head from the story of Judas. Michelangelo was a homosexual, but he was also very religious, so he felt very conflicted with himself and would often portray himself as dark images. This is The Last Judgment, 1534 to 1541. He was asked to paint this 30 years after the ceiling, and he painted it in the Sistine Chapel wall. After it was completed, Pope Paul saw this and was so terrified that he fell to his knees and prayed for mercy. It was very shocking to people. People were actually shocked by Christ being beardless because he was never painted beardless before. It was in the first time. And he was highly criticized for painting nude figures, especially in a church. The Pope Master of the Ceremonies, Pieta de Cesena, said, "It is mostly disgraceful that in so sacred a place there should have been depicted all these nude figures, exposing themselves so shamefully, and that it was no work for a papal church, but rather for the public baths and taverns." So Michelangelo, being Michelangelo, he honored Pieta de Cesena by including him in the painting in hell with donkey ears wrapped by a snake with a snake biting his genitals. When he complained to the Pope said, "My jurisdiction does not extend to hell." He also included a self-portrait of the slave skinned from the martyr Saint Bartholomew. And a few years later, another artist was hired to paint those draperies over the genitals of the figures. Michelangelo lived to be 89 years old. On his deathbed, he told his friends and family, "I regret dying just as I am beginning to learn the alphabet of my profession." He was a perfectionist. There were times where he even hired assistants because they didn't paint as well as he did. He didn't do things by the book. He acted on and sculpted on his own instincts, and he created his own work that people will forever copy. He will forever be one of the greatest artists in history.
So Jesse, what did you think?
Well, the visual material is nice. I liked how she included it, and she talked about each one. She had good eye contact with the audience. She didn't really look down at her notes all that often. I couldn't really figure out what her attention grabber was, and I think she could project a little bit more with her voice. Other than that, I can't really find anything else wrong with it.
Okay. All right, well, she's got the visual and she says the topic, and it's a dramatic statement. Okay, so we know what's going on there. I think it could be more interesting and draw us in a little bit more, but we know what the topic is. The thesis is adequately stated, but not particularly compelling. What appears to be the first part of your speech, I thought, was the justification. I got no preview at all. And as I'm listening to the speech, I'm having a hard time picking out what the structure is. I guess there's some biographical information. There's his work in sculpting and maybe his painting, although I'm kind of imposing that structure. I didn't really think that you were doing that. And once you get to the individual pieces of art, it really just seems to float through, example to example to example. So I think there needs to be a little bit more focus on how this is developing. You've got a lot of information here, but I didn't hear any source citations for any of that information. I don't know if it comes from a scholarly source or you're just quoting data from Wikipedia. The visuals, though, are nicely integrated into the speech. I did like them. They're large enough to see. You worked it out so somebody is moving the visuals for you so you don't have to go back and forth. Like I said, I think you could have used them to even maybe help organize things a little bit more. The speech flows pretty smoothly. I think you need a better summary, and that could have been a place where you could impose a little bit of structure on what you've talked about and maybe focus our attention a little bit more. So it's a good topic. There's a lot of information in here. I'm not sure it's put together as clearly as it needs to be for a speech, and it's a pretty short presentation, so there's room to do a couple more things. All right, thank you.